I love trolling thrift stores, like vintage stores and thrift stores. And I love treasure hunting and I love finding books. And so I'm always reading books that I've never heard of, and maybe other people have heard of them. I may be reading a bestseller from 10 years ago, or some obscure thing, but I really like kind of being guided and playing around. So I've been reading this book. It's such a Tama book, by the way, because like normal people read like whatever. I'm reading this book called Epitaph of a Peach. So Epitaph for a Peach. It's such a Tama book because it's like poetic. Like it probably didn't sell well, who knows? But anyways, I love the book. It's this farmer who's sharing his experiences and whatever. And he writes really poetically. But I liked what he gave this one example about how he was fighting all the weeds in his crop, like weeds that just took over him, weeds, and he was just frustrated with them or whatever. And then one day he finally just decided to stop calling them weeds and to call them native grasses. Like just native grasses. And then later on, he went on to move on to call them indigenous plants, and it was just, he's not a Course in Miracles person, but for me, it was such a good example of A Course in Miracles, right? Like another way of seeing it, because what he actually started finding out was some of the weeds he was trying to get rid of were really helping, were attracting certain kinds of insects that would then help the soil, that would then help so like, again, that there was another way of seeing it. And so I thought, I'm going to challenge you just to play this. You don't have to do it here with me. You can if you feel like it, but maybe as an assignment, maybe you're going to reframe something in your life just playfully. Maybe you're going to come up with another label for it or another, another way to describe it. Right. So, I used to, when I used to travel home to see my mother, because my mother was always the person who could knock me off easily. Like I'd be all sane and all Course in Miracles and zened out. I will have just taught an amazing workshop in Denver. And then I'd fly home and within 3 seconds, I'd be like out of my mind, right? I'd be in pain and I'd be triggered. And so what I finally started doing was like, I secretly started in my mind, calling her like a Kung Fu master. I was facing the Kung Fu master, the Kung Fu master was going to test me about how much I'd really learned, right? Because, you can practice Course in Miracles with all your like-minded friends who agree with you and think, oh my God, how beautiful, you're doing great. Try it with your relatives. That's when you're going to really see. Like that's, that's the graduate school, right? Like, let's see how well, and I would literally, it helped me because if I looked at her that way, I wasn't immediately disappointed and I wasn't immediately stunned. Like, why is she judging me? Why isn't she supporting me? Why isn't she saying the kind thing? Of course she's not. She's the Kung Fu master. She's here to see how strong I am. She's here to test my inner resolve, right? She's playing it perfectly. And I would always see how long it took me before I went completely unconscious. Like I would start off great. I'd journal all this stuff of how I was going to see it differently and I was going to love her and I was going to love people. And then, like I could see how long it took before I got thrown off and how long it took to get back. And that's all the journey we're ever looking for, because this is power, people. This is really power, right? It's really power when people throw you off and you don't get thrown off.